Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Starseed Immersion Podcast. Today, I have Hillis Pugh with me, and I'm so excited because I love Hillis's work. And a little bit about Hillis, he is an author, a teacher, a speaker, and a holistic guide. He empowers souls through his innate gifts, and as one of the rare Assyrian Lumerian lineage teachers, he gently leads individuals on their sacred journey, offering insightful mentorship to perceive beyond the veil of the physical and cultivate profound resonance with your soul essence through the luminous energies of psychic mediumship, Reiki, and Lumerian light. His heartfelt intention is to illuminate your path, assuring you of your eternal connection. So, welcome, Hillis. I'm so excited to have you on this podcast.
I'm excited to be here with you too. I mean, I know when we met last year for your summit, it was a beautiful experience, and I am happy to reconnect again. And it's funny because he was on Kelly's show, and that's how we got this going. It's like, oh yeah, come on, yeah, I'll be on your show.
Yes, and I loved your conversation last time as well. So I kind of want to bring that forward a little bit. I would
Hmm.
love to hear, first and foremost, what has been in your space this year? What have you been noticing this year?
You know, the evolution of self, and I say that with a broad stroke because we are all walking the path of self-evolution. But what really hits home is the understanding of oneness, the divine oneness that we already know, the one divine oneness that we already are. But how does that look like? How does that feel like? How do we really begin to embody that as a species? And Yeshua, Jesus to some, Yeshua to others, whatever you decide to call this divine master, was an example of this. He was the prime example of him being dedicated and committed to studying for 12 years of his craft, perfecting the craft of what can he do in this physical form. And that's what I am allowing myself to step into now, is really beginning to understand the limitless abilities of this human form and to really begin to embody that, which is why I started this short series on my YouTube channel called Being Omni. And it just really it begins to embrace us all the questions that we have as a collective to really step into the oneness that we are.
I'm curious what omni means. So,
Well, when you put omni in front of anything, people just go bonkers. It's like you can't be omnipresent, you can't be omni-knowledgeable, you can't be omnipotent. That's up to God. That's God. God is omni. And I'm like, well, fun fact, and truth is that when we allow ourselves to get out of the religious dogma that we have been so indoctrinated with in every generation, in every culture, some form or fashion, there's been religion. And this religion has cultivated a mindset to where in order to talk to God, to connect with God, you got to go through your your priest or whomever, and then not even that, you still have to go through one of the divine masters. You have to talk to Jesus. So it's like this chain of command of divine order that we have to allow ourselves to be a part of. But it is in that space of divine order we lost our sacredness of who we are, of our God self. Yes, our God self, our higher self, to where we have direct communication with God. And sometimes when we ask questions and receive answers, it is God responding to us in a voice, tone, and energy that we can respond and resonate to that does not frighten us. Because you have to understand that God is this benevolent, omnipotent being. And if God is all seeing, all knowing, how can one truly be powerful if there aren't any roots or seeds planted everywhere to share this knowledge and information? So, we've always been told as kids that God is everywhere. Well, duh, God is everywhere because we are God. We see, we feel, we know, we use our senses to have this human experience. And in this indulgent of the physical reality that we have created for ourselves, we've forgotten how to access that God self energy, that God, that we are God.
Mhm. And from this space, like I feel that, many of us understand ourselves from separation. So
Yes.
to reconnect with this, I guess I would call it truth, right? It is truth that we are all. And I had mentioned before the interview, almost feeling like if I am everything and I am nothing, and I am worthy if I do or do not do anything, I am just worthy of being. It it was like my identity was like, whoa, what does that even mean for me now? Because
Yeah.
all the constructs that I have in my life are based on an identity. It was like an attachment to, this is what I call myself. And this is all the material things that I have in life that I am attached to. And that is who I am, right? And so reaching this point of if I am all and if I'm nothing, then who am I really? So, so I'm
I
wondering
know.
some insight on that.
That's a conundrum. We all fall into this at some point of thinking, if I'm everything then I'm nothing, then what am I? And this is something that I've been talking about frequently, even though this was one of the first things that I talked about when I first started my journey. So here I am back again at this moment of asking the question, who am I? Who am I now? And that is a question you can ask anytime, any moment, and the answer will always be different. Simply because when you say, I am everything and I am nothing, it's an oxymoron in itself. And let me explain to you why. Because God, energy, is everything. It is the all that exists. And how can the all exist if there is nothing? And when we reference the space of nothingness, we reference the spaces of the void, the darkness, the black, the space in between spaces, or the space to get to here, to get to there. And so when we think of nothing, this is what the human concept of nothing is. It's the void, it's the absence of the all. And so it's just this repetitive cycle of, okay, how was everything created? Did it come out of the void? Was it a seed first? Was it a ball of light first? And so these are questions that only you can answer for yourself. And so the insight that I have to offer you and for everyone who's watching this is when we begin to accept ourselves, our God self, our higher self, our soul self, all aspects of who we are, then we can begin to see the all. We then can begin to see the everything that we are. And one of my daily affirmations that I say to myself, and you guys feel free to use this, is that I can do anything because I am everything. I am life, I am light, I am love. And when we begin to embody that energy, we begin to see things in a different perspective. So there never truly had my mom would kill me. She heard that. There never, the double negatives. Ugh. So there is never really any absence of anything. It's just our perspective in how things manifest or how things materialize.
Mm. I am curious because I have always asked, do we really have free will? or if,
Ah.
right? Because if, okay, so if we
No,
are,
I know exactly where
um,
you're going
right?
with this. I know
Yeah,
because
like,
this has been a popular topic, believe it or not, as in the past month. This has been a very popular topic. I see people talking about it on TikTok. I see people talking about it on all forms of social media. And I realize, and this is just proof positive that everything that everyone is experiencing and have questions about is stuff that I experienced, 7, 8, sometimes even a decade ago. So I'm just happy and grateful that I have this moment to share this wisdom with everyone and refresh it for you and put a larger perspective on it. And so I was having a conversation with a friend a few weeks ago about this, and this is what's interesting. And so our whole universe is governed by sound, frequency, resonance, energy, all of these things, math, astrology, right? This is what our universe is governed by. And people often say, well, if we have astrology, then everything is predetermined. And there are certain life aspects, life markers, as I call them, that will go unchanged, that will remain unbothered in any multiverse or any uh, dimension that you live. So just know that. So there are certain events that will never change regardless, because it creates part of your core character, it creates part of your core makeup. And so if we just look at the one aspect of astrology, then no, there's no free will. We can't choose anything. However, and I talked about this on the episode of Being Omni, so I'm glad you brought this up, is that when we allow ourselves to reincarnate, when we allow ourselves to incarnate, that's choice number one. That's one of the very first choices that we make when we choose to incarnate in physical form. That's a choice. That's free will. Second is when we choose to incarnate, we then have the life selection process. We get to choose what life we want to experience that will assist us in our evolution, that will assist us in our growth. That's choice number two. And then we then begin to choose those in our life who will help bring about these changes, the self-evolution. That's choice number three. We get to choose when we are born. That's choice number four. So everything that we experience prior to the physical incarnation here on this planet school called Earth is choice. So we exercise our free will prior to our physical existence. And yes, in our physical existence, we still have free will because, yes, our life path is mostly predetermined through astrology, through the math, through the science, through the frequencies of the universe. But we still can choose what experiences we want, which ones we don't. And it's in those choices of saying yes, no, are the most powerful ones that we can make that would grant us the grandest, smallest, and sometimes insignificant but most potent choices and experiences in our life.
so I've had some experiences this year that made me realize just how powerful the subconscious mind is. And when we are presented with choices, how do you know what is coming from the subconscious and what is an actual true heart or soul guidance?
Well, everything comes from the heart. Everything. It doesn't matter what, everything comes from the heart. You have to remember that. It's just we have to allow ourselves to know which choice we want to take, because there are certain experiences that we consider or deem lower vibrating or a high vibrating choice. That's how we label it to make our choices easier. Or that's how we label things to make our mind or the concept or the construct of that choice easier. It's like, well, if I go down past A, well, I'm going to, graduate college and have an amazing job and have amazing friends and have the life that I dreamed of and have this American dream. Yay, that's the life I want. Or, which is some people consider a high vibrational choice. Or then you have this other choice where you can be a monk and live a life of vow of poverty, but then you get to learn all these amazing hidden techniques and all these teachers and really learn the potential of the human body and really learn this and really learn that. So it's a school within a school. So it really depends on what it is you value. And that's what it comes down to. What your core value determines the best path for you. And to follow that path is with intent and intuition, to follow your heart, to follow that. And when you follow that, you can't go wrong because every path, every choice, every decision that is made eventually goes back to God, goes back to source, goes back to you.
Mm. It reminds me of that teaching that like all paths lead to one. So it doesn't matter which path you travel to. And I think one of the biggest, I guess, like challenges is the fear that you're making the wrong choice.
Yeah.
And if you made the wrong choice, then you would have missed out on something. So
Yeah.
from the
FOMO.
yes. Oh my God, I had horrible FOMO. Like, and that comes from conditioning of like,
Yes.
you know, um, every choice that I made was always wrong or like was perceived as not good enough. And
Yes.
so growing up, it was like the choices became infinitely harder, even if it was a simple thing, like, what do you want to eat? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, that would freak me out.
And that's what it comes down to because I feel, generationally, there has been advantages and disadvantages. I'm Generation X. I'm what people would consider super independent, latchkey kid, but I'm also very spoiled at times too, because it's these things, and then the millennials and the younger all get this bad rap because they grew up with technology, they don't know what we know, they can't fend for themselves. I mean, I've met people older than I am who can't fend for themselves. I mean, pre this conception of how we allow ourselves to take care of ourselves, or how we allow ourselves to navigate our space, is how we navigate the space based on our human experience, and our human experience dictates everything, how we encounter people, how we talk to people, everything. And so if we shy away from particular encounters, then yeah, we may not have coping skills or coping mechanisms to deal with it. But at the same time, we learn how to deal with it in a way that's best for ourselves and our human experience. So, whatever to people who say uh, anything lower vibrating about another generation or about another person or about another individual is their experience. And one of the things I want to share with you, just to let you know how powerful our words and thoughts are, you know, and people who follow me know I'm not shy about talking about plant medicine at all. And so this was this particular plant medicine experience where I think maybe this is my third time, second or third time being of service, meaning that I was a shaman's assistant. And someone was having an experience in the teepee, and someone walked out of the teepee and they went to go make a phone call, talking about the other person in the teepee. And I'm like, we can't, I mean, in the middle of ceremony, so you just can't leave and just go start having a conversation. You can't do that. And that conversation was impacting that other individual. Because when we are together in a space like that, where it's maybe about 15, 20 people in the teepee, that connection with medicine is so potent that it can affect someone almost instantly. So just imagine, you create this space and you have these thoughts about yourself or someone else and how it impacts you while there. And so it's just really something to think about when we become more mindful of our thoughts.
Mm. Have you ever experienced where I would say like awareness or consistent awareness or like this constant need to connect with our higher selves can actually be detrimental rather than just acceptance of who you are in the moment?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I have been in what I want to call, and if anyone is familiar with Amish culture or with Jewish culture, they understand what I'm about to say. So the Amish has something that they call a Loon Springer, which is like a rite of passage. And in this space of rite of passage, you go off and experience the world, as us regular humans, people, not the Amish culture. You go out, experience the world for a summer, and then when you come back, you get to decide whether if you want to stay in the Amish culture, if you want to go and depart and leave the Amish culture. And that's where I feel like I'm at in my life right now. And and I know which way I'm gonna go. That's apparent. But I say that because we all at one point get presented with this space of really being truly connected. And when there have been times where I have felt, especially after a doctor's appointment, if the doctor needs blood, I could be at home. I feel my blood miles away in a vial somewhere. It's like, what are they doing to my blood? Or there are instances where I feel things moving in my body. So I've always been, especially since I've started my journey, always felt like the space of higher connection. But I could say recently I felt like I was just wanting to disconnect a little bit and just have a basic human experience before I allow myself to connect fully again. Because when you connect fully, it takes a certain level of discipline. You know, like what should I eat? What shouldn't I eat? Should I be exercising? Should I not exercise? Where should I go to receive my knowledge? Where should I go to receive my recharge? So all these things are coming to consideration when you are connecting at such a high level. Because there was a time when I started doing journeys by myself, and I went so high that I had to stop
Mm.
because I could have potentially done damage to my nervous system because of how open and how high and how fast I got to where I got. And so it's just really something to be aware of when we are in those spaces of higher connections.
That leads back to, I guess, more of like integrating both worlds, right? Like
Yeah,
knowing that you can raise your consciousness and connect to something greater, and then also not using that as a form of escape to
yeah,
like to not be present in your human experience. So can you
yeah.
talk about how you integrated both worlds or how you brought that into the present moment? And navigating, right, the challenges of being in the 3D or having a physical body while I guess like having a better experience of the human experience because of higher consciousness. Bless you.
Excuse me. Thank you. So, short answer is dancing. I go out and dance. Physical movement is a good way to integrate the higher and lower energies because physical movement is the space in the in the middle. But when we think of integration, we think that we have to follow all these rules and regulations to integrate, or I can't do this or I can't do that, and all these things. Integration comes from your intuition. You have to know what's best for you. And for me, integration is okay, if I do medicine work or if I do energy work one day, I have to make sure I take that day of rest, understand what it was that I felt, understand what it was that I saw, journal it down, and bring it into this body. And sometimes, we like to go play out in the ethers. We have to bring that energy into the body. And one of the best ways to integrate is sometimes sleep. It's actually the best way. Rest is the best way to integrate. And once you allow yourself to have that, you then can revisit moments. You then can go about your day, live in a different spatial awareness. And it's not all about being super aware all the time. That will come in time, the level of awareness, because there are times when I'm having a conversation like this with you, and then I could be aware of something going on in my body. I could be something aware of something going on down the street. I could be this omnipresent, this omni awareness that I have. And it's just listening, it's just knowing, it's just being connected. And when you're connected, you don't have to integrate. You just know. And that connection could be taking proper minerals for the body. Fulvic minerals are really good. Uh, Ormus is really good for the body to help you stay connected, to help the minerals that your body needs. So definitely put that on your list. But integration is all about listening.
Can you talk about the mineral again?
Yeah, so there's actually I have one here. Um, I don't know if you guys can see it. Yeah, so it's Hawaiian Ormus. And if you guys want to know where I get this from, put comments below and I'll put the link in for you guys to where I get this. This is actually the best Ormus I've ever had. And Ormus is actually an old Egyptian recipe, probably goes back further than that. Because what they do is they take salt, dry it, then it turns into salt, the white powder, and then they take gold, grind it up, make this powdery liquid out of it. It's very salty. But what it does is it opens up signal pathways in the nervous system because what you have to remember that we have three brains, heart, gut, brain. And so the nerves in the gut receive this impulse of energy from the ormus, and it just goes up into the heart and into the brain. And it really helps to fight off signals. It helps to bring in higher spaces of consciousness, higher spaces of awareness. That's one. The other one is trace minerals, full Vic minerals are really good because it contains a lot of the minerals that our body needs because we are not receiving the nutrients from our food because the soil isn't good. And so if the soil isn't good, then the plants are good. They won't have the nutrients they need to process. So go straight to the source and get that. So that way your body gets what it needs to keep the connections in the body, especially if you're doing like plant medicine or any other journeys. And another good way to integrate is what I call the gamma breath. Uh, some people call it the dragon breath. There are many things that this has been called if you've been in breath work. And so you might, after I say that, maybe you can do it and join in with me, Nikki, see how you feel.
You
So
want to do it now?
yeah, so people can experience. So basically, what it is, and I'll just tell people, and there's no specific count. I mean, now to do this, but you can add a count to it later. So basically, all you do when you inhale through your belly and your diaphragm, hold it, and then when you exhale, then you squeeze all the air out and you pull your stomach back to your spine. And what that does is it squeezes that liquid, the spinal liquid all the way up to your pineal gland, and it opens up that energy center. And the reason why I call it the gamma breath because it connects you to the gamma energy. And so if you do that a few times, it really opens up uh, a higher connection, higher awareness, especially if you want to start off for meditation with that, that's really good for that. So if you want to start, we could do a couple of breaths right now if you game.
Yes, I want to.
Okay, so first we're just going to take a regular deep breath in to relax the body.
Okay.
To signal to the body that we are relaxing, that we're entering a state of peace and relaxation. And then now you begin one big deep breath into the belly, probably for like a three count. And then exhale, pulling back to the spine. That's one. Then inhale again through the belly. That's two. Then exhale. And just open your eyes. Take another deep breath in and just slowly open your eyes. And how was that for you? That was short and quick, but you could see the how potent that was. I could see the shift. I could see it.
I do feel that because I felt my brain like there's a lot more clarity in my brain now.
Yeah, because you have to understand, once you understand how the body works, how it functions, then you can begin to understand how to manipulate the energies, the breath, the flow of energies in the body. Because there's actually some techniques that I was or am learning to really help the body flow differently. Because you have to understand that our heart is our magnetic center, our magnetic field. And it's only moving in one direction, just like the torus, just like the apple, just in that space. And so once we learn how to understand that energy, how it moves, we then can begin to understand the flow of our other energetic systems.
Mm. And this is something that I notice for myself is I'll notice that I don't breathe throughout the day, like as it's like shallow breathing, right? It's not like
Yeah.
full deep breaths. So, is that connected to the nervous system or is that connected to something different?
So our breath is always connected to our nervous system because it helps the flow of the nerves, helps the flow of the uh, meridian pathways, it helps the flow of everything. But when you begin to understand how the meridian system works, how once you begin to understand how the nervous system works, how the circulatory system works, they work in parallel, in tandem with one another. And at certain times of the day, you probably will feel more energetic, probably feel less energetic, or you may feel your breathing may be a little bit different. And when we step into that space, especially as you talked about with shallow breathing, we may not need as much energy during that part of the day, as opposed to when we're breathing heavier, because when we inhale, especially depending on our surroundings, what surround us, is it, what plants are around us, what energy is around us, what electronics are around us. We have to take that into consideration because we could be saying, okay, well, I need more energy in my body to move. I need more oxygen in my body so I can move this around. Which is why when we create physical exercise, it helps to create more oxygen in the body to move what needs to be moved.
I was just gonna ask that actually, because I was thinking about exercise. Like, at what point, or is it ever, where physical exercise is too demanding on the nervous system versus like intentional peace or like intentional breathing? Is that more nourishing for the nervous system than like hardcore exercise?
It doesn't matter. All matters with intention. Everything in moderation and balance. Because, when I used to be a borderline gym rat, I was in the gym 4 days a week, 90 minutes, 2 hour sessions. I was in there getting it, but then I realized and this was before I really started my journey. It's like, do I really need to be in here this much? I enjoy how I look. I enjoy how I feel afterwards. And so it's the dopamine that was in the body that's being created to get you that high from working out, which is why people do it all the time. It's like, oh, I just want that dopamine, I just want that rush. And so I get it. But then when you are setting an intention, just like we did with the gamma breath, there's just that same effect. So it just really comes down to personal preference and what it is you wish to achieve. Do you want that dopamine rush and really wanting to stay in physical shape? Because, the work that, being a healer, doing the work that we do, you do have to maintain some physical maintenance, physical shape, with the muscles and everything. You have to be in a good condition to do what you have to do. I mean, you have to have the stamina, you have to have the endurance because when you are going on medicine journeys or energy journeys for long periods, you have to have the physical stamina to do what you have to do, which is, one reason why I do my best to stay in shape or even get in better shape because that I know that if I'm going to go this path, my body has to be ready for it.
Mm. I noticed something, like a shift this year, and perhaps it's tied to deeper layers coming up. But I used to also be a gym rat. Like I would go like 5 times a week. I was in great shape. Um, and I think a part of that was tied to my worth and how I looked. And
Yeah.
so coming into this year and really being able to release those layers, and it was like I lost motivation for a lot of things that I used to enjoy. And I even lost momentum for my business too. And I feel like I can attribute it to the fact that like maybe perhaps it's connected to a lot of the hustle and the worth, or it can also be because right now we're moving through a great shift. And in fact, we aren't necessarily doing as much. Instead, we're learning how to be. So, do you have any insight on like if someone's experiencing that? Because you said you experienced this years ago. Have you ever had that experience, and what was your take on that?
All the time, and actually most recently, always, being an air sign, always have to be on the move, always have to be doing something, you know. I was at a place early this year and I asked a friend of mine just for confirmation because I asked Spirit, I asked my team to say, hey, I should I be doing this or should I be doing that? What should I be doing right now to get things moving? And I asked this question multiple times, and the answer was always the same. It was like, no, do nothing, have patience. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Do nothing, have patience. What are you talking about? You telling me to do nothing? Yes, do nothing. And I asked my friend, who we trade back and forth all the time, and I said, can you give me a confirmation if this is what it is? And she said, yes, do nothing. And I'm like, oh, great. How long is this going to last? For the summer. And I'm like, I got to go a whole summer of doing nothing. How is it going to be even possible? So, and the thing is, it's not in the space of nothingness that is me not doing what it is that I want to do to get to the next level. There's other things that are going to be going on. Like for me personally, I know that I'm going to be going through uh, a personal initiation. I don't know what that is. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know when it's coming. I just know it's happening. And so there's certain life gates, life markers, things like that, as I talked about before, that we can't change. And so there are some things that have been accelerated. And when we move in these spaces of losing the desire of things that we once had love for. It's just that we are making room for something else. We're making room to see the bigger picture. We're making room for us to really integrate all those aspects, all those lessons. Because I can sit here and say that I'm definitely a multifaceted person. There are things in my life that I've done, things in my life that I never thought I would do. Like me, cutting down a tree and shaving the bark off of a tree, getting ready, preparing it for ceremony space. Me being a poet, me being a fire starter, me doing all these things that I've done in my life to say, huh, this makes up an awesome person. I mean, there's nothing that I haven't done. There's nothing that I haven't been through or experienced, at least yet in my life, that would have made me regret. So yeah, I may have met people and things, but if I wouldn't have done what I've done, I wouldn't be who I am, and I wouldn't do what I do. So I mean, it's just interesting when we allow ourselves to really begin to step into the wholeness of who we really are. and enjoy each phase as it is, then there's no FOMO. There's no fear of losing out or questioning why I am not motivated anymore. It's no question as to why things aren't working out the way they're supposed to. Because in our mind, in our preconceived mind as humans, we have things that go a certain way because, or we expect things to go in a different direction because of the collective consciousness.
Mm.
Because that's one thing that affects our choices, our decisions of how to be seen, be heard, be out there, do this, do that. We get caught up in all of the minutia. So, which is why some of us have to sit back, which is why some of us have to sit back and begin to realize, okay, what am I doing this for? Why am I doing this? What's the purpose of this? And really begin to do things with intention.
So that there's like a part of me that wants, I feel like right now I don't want anything. I'm like in surrender. I'm like, I just want the universe to tell me what to do or source to guide me because source is our higher self. So I
Yes.
feel like if it's time, intuitively I would be pulled, right? Like I would be called to do it. But at what point is it like, are we meant to self-initiate? Are we meant to follow our inner guidance? Like, is there, what are your thoughts on that?
You know, as we collectively sit in 4D, the transitional space, this is where we are right now collectively. And we'll probably be sitting here collectively for another year, maybe two. I'm just being honest. It's going to be a while before we get to fifth density. You know, there are people on the planet that are moving between third density, fourth density. There are some people moving between fourth density, fifth density, and higher, you know. And so when we have this space of wanting to make a choice and just sitting back and think, okay, am I being called to do this? Yes or no? It's more so about aligning that energy with your heart. It's not asking source, should I do this? Would you feel like you should do this? Because now the onus is coming back to us. We have to make those decisions. We have to self-initiate, but we've have allowed ourselves to be guided for so long. We are now being asked to take our power back, to take our control back, to take what is ours. Because as we move through this fourth density is the space where we are meant to unload everything, to let go of everything that no longer serves us, which is why you see everything that's happening in the world right now. Because, you know, we are living in a time of destruction and construction. And in the time of this construction, we are being asked to take our power back. This is who I am. This is what makes sense for me. This is how I should move forward. So not all the time should there be self-initiation. There should always be a time to listen. And then if you are listening, then like me, take no action. But if there are other times, yes, take action. So it's more so confirmation with your team of moving forward in progress that is alignment with your best and higher self.
Mm. I resonate with that more and more as I step into the feminine energy. And sometimes I question, like, am I too in the feminine? Like, what happened to all my masculine energy? But like your experience confirms that we are moving through a really big transition collectively. And it's not just me that feels like
Yes.
I'm just sitting down and I'm just asked to relax, like chill.
Yeah, exactly. You know, especially you know, it comes from someone who has an air sign. I mean, me sit down? No, come on, I don't sit. Um, but I do want to address something that you talked about just a moment ago, and that's talking about the feminine, divine feminine energy. And you know, I don't want to say it upsets me, but it brings pause to the community as we are. You know, and just for people who are watching, I don't consider myself divine masculine. I don't consider myself divine feminine. I consider myself two spirit, which means I embody both. And there's a balance to that. And I'm not saying, this or that. I'm not making any claims. This is my disclaimer. Take what you want and throw it away afterwards, okay? And so there's too much focus on one gender and the or the other, saying divine masculine, divine feminine. Okay, there's too much focus on being one or the other. We are moving into a point of humanity where we have to begin to embrace both. Because if you embrace one without the other, there's going to be imbalance. And with this level of imbalance, you really can't begin to embrace and have this full experience. Yes, there's going to be one more prominent than the other, but there has to be balance. And I'm not saying that people aren't teaching this. I'm not saying people aren't aware of this. I'm just saying that if you allow yourself to focus more so on one than the other, then there may be an opportunity missed for you to really have this human experience. There have been stories about gods and demigods, true stories, and indigenous cultures where these gods switch sex at will, and so when we allow ourselves to begin to fully embrace who we are without judgment, because people say, oh, well, you can't be this, you got to be that, free from the labels, free from it all. When you begin to embrace who you are, then yeah, it becomes easier to do that. And not to have a culture clash on this episode, but when you have, identify as a cis male versus a gay male, or a cis woman versus a lesbian, gay, straight, whatever, non-binary, trans, whatever your identification is, whatever your label is, whatever you choose to identify as, it just leads to one or two things. It's like it's the space of self-acceptance. How do you identify with yourself? How do you accept yourself? How do you love yourself beyond the labels, beyond the genders, beyond the sexuality? Because the first creation of the universe is love. The first creation of the universe is love. And so this is what's entangled in every experience, whether we feel it or not. Love is in that experience. We just have to allow ourselves to dig deep enough to see it. And when you focus too much on portraying your outward appearance and really begin to embody that outward appearance as opposed to embody what you feel, then there's going to be miscommunication. And not just with the body, but also with the spirit, which is why some people identify as they identify with it. And I'm happy that we've has come so far as a planet to allow ourselves to be who we are, to love ourselves as we are. But I just say everything that I say to bring balance, bring harmony to you, bring love to you. Doesn't matter, it's like, oh, I want to be this macho man. Yeah, be the macho man, but yeah, know when to let your guard down. Or you just want to be this very, empowered woman. Be this empowered woman, but also know that you have this nurturing energy that's about you. And when you allow yourself to be in balance, that everything is connected.
And I do feel like as you were speaking, I just feel the energy of the collective in this, or not the collective per se, but the archetypes that play these roles for the
Yes,
collective is
yes,
here to actually break down the structures that we have so rigidly held onto. Because if
yeah,
you can't identify as male or female, and you have all of these in betweens, it really makes people question, like, what are my values? Do I just value what they identify as? Or do I
right.
value humanity and their soul and their heart? And for me, I've always been like, I don't care what you identify as because I see you as your soul, or I see you for who you are. There's
Yeah,
layers beneath the label or what you portray outwardly, right?
yeah.
Um,
It's a feeling as opposed to a label. And I understand why we have to categorize everything because it makes things easier for people. But when has our human experience ever been easy? When has it in the history of humanity has been easy? I mean, you have to understand this is a school. We came here to learn. And as we learn, we continue to grow and evolve and move past everything else. We move past the words that get in the way, you know, and soon, and actually some of us now, communicating telepathically. Well, no, it was about embracing the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and allowing yourself to be free from the labels, the contrast, the energy of that. Because as we are going to be sitting in fourth density for a while until the collective catches up. Because this, you have to understand, there are people like me who are in 5D, 6D, 7D higher. You know, I can go to a higher density if I want, but I just won't have the experience of connecting with people. So sometimes I feel I have to lower my density just to have a regular human interaction.
yes. And I feel like the theme this year especially is like bringing that groundedness in, right? Like
Yes.
um, I've heard many times that being human is the new spirituality.
Well, yeah, it kind of is because, for years, before we moved into fourth density, a lot of, people like to play out in the ethers, like to just hang out in the spiritual realms and just be, just like I'm just going to go hang out here and be with my friends and my guys, and that's it. Leave me alone. But now we are being asked to be of service, to step, because the reason why we hung out in the ethers and the spiritual realms is so that we can learn, so that way we can go through these experiences ahead of time, so we know what they are for the rest of humanity. Then now to it's like, oh, what's happening? Oh, I can tell you what's happening. I've already been through it, I've already experienced it. But I say that because the best way to ground is people always talk about earthing, putting your feet on Mother Earth, grounded, connected to the earth that way. Yes, that's the new grounding, that's the new thing. But the proper way to ground, especially if you are operate at a state of higher consciousness, is to bring the energy down properly from the ethers through your soul star chakra, through your crown chakra, and all the way down to the root chakra, then connecting it to the earth. And then once it connects to the earth, bring that energy back up. And not saying that you have to do this every day. Maybe like once a week, when you give that attention to yourself. But it's definitely important to allow for this energy to ground and integrate because this is part of the integration practice that I talked about before.
Mm. Would you like would you like to channel something from Source or your Omni channel uh for those of us that are listening that maybe we haven't covered or that they feel is present in the moment that we should know?
I'm laughing because this whole time has been channeled. This whole time has been information and refreshing it for people to really understand, to grasp at it. But if you want to ask something in particular that hasn't been asked before, because it's like I can say things and express things in many different ways, you know, and I feel like if you ask, it would be more focused, and then it would branch off from there. Make sense?
Yeah.
And I
I
think I feel the question already. I feel the energy, but ask.
It's interesting because I don't quite know what wants to come through. Like for me,
Yeah.
sometimes I ask these questions on the interviews And I do feel that they are self-directed. So it's the things that I'm curious about. But I'm always curious if there's like a big theme going on that I'm missing that they want to talk about.
So when you say self-directed, just to let you know that self-direction is not always, from you, even though it feels like it's from you, it's for you to get your attention. Just know that. So even though
Mm.
you may feel it's self-directed, it's not always self-directed because it's really in the space of assistance for you to begin to have that trust of intuition. This is for anyone who is watching, when we have that feeling of, is this my ego or not? And so just always ask yes or no. Is it my ego? Yes or no? But it's not like that with you. Um, but the thing that and that's the thing. I'm sitting here. There's a myriad of things that want to pop through, that wants to really be expressed. It's like all these everything is clamoring. And so what is most important now for us to do is to begin to embrace the changes, begin to embrace the not normal, because everyone wants to go back to some normalcy. Normal has never been our way. Normal has never been the way of this planet. Normal has never been the way of this school. This is the toughest school in the galaxy. This is the toughest school in this known universe because of its rich history and energy dynamics. And when I speak of energy dynamics of the history of how we've been enslaved, how we've, lost our power, been in power, all these cycles of this planet. And understanding the sentientness, the consciousness of Mother Earth herself, understanding that the sentient beings, meaning the teachers, such as the whales, the dolphins, the plant teachers, the mushrooms. Everything is an extension of her. So anything that we gravitate towards that is of her, know that it holds the knowledge and history, portions and pieces. And if we just allow ourselves to begin to accept this evolution of her balancing herself, because she too is recalibrating her energy of being, from divine feminine to divine masculine and harmonizing that energy. It's not just, and the example that I'm being shown is that if you ever had a single parent, the single parent was both the mom and the father. Okay. Even though we have the Heavenly Father, we have the earthly mother, we have the great creator, we have these energies, but there's also greater forces that govern her. So as she is recalibrating, she's recalibrating because of the greater forces, and that's due to our center galaxy, which is Sirius, which is the center of the galaxy. Betelgeuse, the big blue planet, not blue, big blue planet, but the big blue sun. The energy of that is governed of the whole universe. So it's always the largest body governs the smaller bodies. It doesn't matter the distance because it's energy, it's magnetics, everything is resonance, everything is in this field. And so when we have this energy, so when she's recalibrating, because of universal energies, it's affecting us. So we're recalibrating on a smaller level and in ways that we are used to. And sometimes some of us forerunners, like myself and other people, we've gone through this ahead of time to feel, what it's like when people talk about ascension symptoms or ascension flu or this and that. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, oh yeah, that, okay. But it's in the space of presence and understanding that with the return of Sirius coming on the solstice, which is tomorrow, that the energies are going to begin to accelerate and shift even greater. Some of us will go through things that we never thought we could experience. And this is why we are here to test our human limits, our human potential to really begin to understand, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, things that we thought weren't possible before. And you have to understand that with the recalibration, with the understanding of the shifts of the energy, it's going to be messy for a while, and that's okay because, there are many methods of cleaning up the mess. There are many ways to clean up the mess. And making a mess is okay. Getting dirty is okay, because it's all temporary. This is one thing you have to realize that our time here is temporary. So enjoy it and realize your full potential and let the masters like Yeshua, Buddha, Mary Magdalene, Kuan Yin, everyone who you believe in, everyone who you put your outward beliefs in, let that be the example for you. But remember, the best way to really understand this, yes, learn, but then internalize it. Learn from the inside, learn from yourself. Do your own self research, do your own self governing, do all the things that really empower you. And don't rely so much on the external, but begin to strengthen and grab and pull from the internal because that's who we are.
Wow, thank you so much. The message of change. That was a big one. That was one that I didn't, but it has been big in the field.
Yeah, I mean, because people honestly, there are people that are afraid of change. People don't know what's coming. People have an idea or a thought of what's coming. There have been people. No, our peers that do remote viewing, people who've done readings and everything, they do all of that. They see the potentials. And this is what people have to understand is that yes, astrology kind of gives a map to everything that can occur. But then you can see the potentials through free will. It's like, well, if I make this choice, if I make that choice, what are the potentials? And this is what understanding the energetic fields are. It's realizing and seeing the potentials and understanding, what path can lead to the outcome you desire. And so, that's, naturally that's interesting. I haven't heard that one before. So the term This is funny. The term playing the field has actually derived from people who do energy work, from way back when, like even before I was born in this realm, in this reality, is playing the field. It means it's like you're taking the chances on manipulating energetic fields and forces to create the best outcome, you know? And so that's exactly what we all do. We all gamble when we come here. We don't remember anything. We just arrive and it's like, okay, what am I supposed to do?
And that's something that's been coming up this year is actually stepping into creative energy. And my remembrance of creation is that for me, it's being an artist. And I realize that when I do art, it is bringing the unseen into the scene. And it's almost like you make it up on the spot. It's not something
Yeah,
and perhaps, who knows, like it already existed in the quantum, you're just bringing it through. But because you're bringing it through, it is this new energy you're bringing forth versus
correct.
being in what we call the old, right? Like in the worry and the fear and what's coming next, what's coming next. In the creation, you're just making it up in the moment. You're bringing
Yeah,
it in the moment. And
yeah.
that's one step over, like one foot in front of the other to create the new.
Yes, it's the process of materialization is which is different from manifestation. Because when we step into the law of vibration, understanding the law of attraction through the law of vibration, which is manifestation, we manifest things in the physical reality that already exists.
Mm.
That's what manifestation is. Manifestation is just us bringing that energy to us that's already in physical existence through our thoughts, through our consciousness, through that energy. But materialization is something much bigger. It's the process of materializing the energy that is unseen, meaning that through the creative works, materialization of that space, materialization of certain energy, or materialization of certain artifacts. And actually, I can tell you that this particular tool that I use in my work is was a materialization because the person that I work that creates these, she created them because she was a smith back in Lemurian times, and she got access to that information and brought that information back here. So that's materialization, just so people have an understanding of it.
Ooh, can I
Also,
show you one
too,
of
I'm
mine?
sorry?
Can I show you one of mine?
Yeah, definitely. I love that. That is
I was
so
a crystal
cool.
healer in Lemuria, and I didn't know
Yeah,
until I brought this forth. I just saw the vision and I was like, I'm going to create it. And then
yeah,
I was told through a reading that I was a crystal healer, and this is my remembrance of that lifetime.
yeah. So, I mean, it's all about how we begin to allow ourselves to perceive certain things. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Hillis. It has been such a joy co-channeling this experience with you.
Right?
And I know you have a beautiful gift to offer the audience. Would you like to share that with us?
Yes. And so that gift is 20 minutes of my time. So you just click on the link in the description to where you get a free 20-minute remote session. And this could be about anything specific that you want for me to focus on, to clear, to assist the beginning of clearing something in your life to bring you more comfort, more ease, and definitely a lot more love.
Well, thank you. And if people are interested in working with you, do you have a website they can visit?
They can just find me, HillisPugh.com.
I love
I'm
that.
the I'm the only Hillis Pugh in the world.
That is the most special and unique name. So thank you, Hillis, for sharing this beautiful space with us. And for everyone tuning in, I will have Hillis's gift and website link in the description. Thank you all for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.